Welcome to the Word from the Ancient Path. Stories for the journey from Ancient Path Ministries. I'm your host, Pastor Kevin Jobe. It is our hope to bring encouragement and blessing to you through stories of how God works extraordinary things through ordinary people called to the work of bringing good news, connecting in Christ, and building the kingdom. Hey, welcome to the Word from the Ancient Path. We are in week 5 of God's Art Gallery of Divine Creativity. That's a phrase that I happened to scribble in a journal about a decade ago, and we have been considering what that phrase means to me. And we started with the heavens and all of the earth to tell God's glory. And then these last 3 weeks, we've been talking about his creativity as seen in the Jobe kids, Tani's and my kids. So after Carice and Zach, Ella, and Josiah, today we take a look at the life of Livy. Here we go. September 23rd, 2003, a funny thing happened in a very strange space. It was a dimly lit room on the 10th floor of the Grand Park Zenith Hotel. It was complete with billiards and all sorts of other gaming tables, but honestly, there were very few signs of human activity apart from us in the room. And Tani and I, well, we waited anxiously until they brought her and they placed her in our hands. And 10 months old, dressed in clothes that we had sent for her, and with a little pink blankie that we'd slept on so that she might recognize the scent of her parents when we were finally together. They placed Zhang Hanyan in Tani's arms, and she became Olivia Jobe, thus named in remembrance of the olive grove Gethsemane in which Jesus was pressed for the good of humanity, and the Mandarin for lotus flower or graceful willow to echo her big sister's name. And with that, we were first-time adoptive parents and a family of 4. On the way home, our baby girl and I got chased through the LA airport by Jamie Lee Curtis, but that's another story, never mind. Anyway, Olivia's nickname stays pretty close to the source. Well, her list of nicknames, right? Libby Lee, Libby Malili, Lily, Malili lives. Tani's dad called her Libby Lulu. And Tani and her siblings and pretty much everyone else calls her Livy. But me, by virtue of a proclamation which she made at age 3, well, I call her Princess, or sometimes Princesa. Ephesians 1:4-6 says that he chose us in him, that's in Jesus, before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ, in accordance with his pleasure and will, to the praise of his glorious grace, which he has freely given us in the one that he loves. Now, this wasn't something I originally intended to include here, but when it comes to God's divine creativity, this thing called adoption, well, it's a work of great complexity and beauty. Adoption, both as God has adopted us, giving us full and complete standing as his children, and adoption as reflected in human families, well, they both start in tragedy. You see, before a child has ever had a need to be adopted, there's been a great loss in their life, and this is a fractal of what humanity experienced at the fall, but which God has been working to redeem. And so we, as a family, we've been blessed to be part of this redemptive work by having Livy and Reese as our daughters, completely. And Livy, for her part, has always made this look relatively easy. A few minutes into our very first encounter in Hefei, Anhui, China, that precious little round-faced baby girl calmly fell asleep in my arms as I sang to her of the Creator's artistic majesty, God of wonders, beyond our galaxy. The universe declares your majesty. You are holy, Lord of heaven and earth. And my baby girl drifted off and simply settled into her identity as our daughter and Gracie's little sister. And being our kid, it seemed, at least, was as natural to Livy as breathing from the very first moments. And since that day, Livy has never lost her love for babies and kids. She currently works as a nanny. She has an associate's degree in early childhood education. I love watching her love kids. My favorite theater composer has a song about making art. He says, bit by bit, putting it together. Piece by piece is the only way to make a work of art. The art of making art is putting it together. That's Stephen Sondheim. And that line has run through my head all of these last few weeks as I've been writing these little snippets about our kids. After the writers of the scripture, Stephen Sondheim is the greatest wordsmith I know. And our Livy is a great example of someone putting it together. Livy, you see, has always been keenly interested in the part of beauty that people can see. And from her childhood, she wanted to represent that in herself and in what she chose to do. In her teens, for a short time, she had a YouTube channel about fashion and makeup and decorating. And then she followed her mom's path into pageantry arts, excelling in the visual aesthetic of color guard, becoming the captain, sort of the star of her unit in her last year of high school. Livy won and advanced in a job in high school because she had this eye for style and sense of what was, what had been, and what would be fashionable for people of her age. She has an eye for beauty. And right now, Livy's in her last year of studying for a degree in architectural engineering. Now, that sounds awfully impressive, doesn't it? But as I look at it, it's just a natural fit for Livy. Of all of our kids, Livy seems most born for the Instagram, TikTok age, right? This gift that she's been graced, this eye for arranging things piece by piece into something beautiful, well, it's very much at home in those venues. And speaking of spiritual gifting, Exodus 35:35 says that God has filled them with skill to do all kinds of work as engravers, designers, embroiderers, and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen, and weavers. All of them skilled workers and designers. I used a little portion of Exodus 35 describing Zach's gifting a few weeks ago, but this particular part really applies to my girl. Livy's home, somehow incredibly eclectic but unified. Her clothes and her accessories and, well, even her dog, Henry, they all seem to be part of a unified picture that Olivia Jobe is composing. This speaks to me of the works of a gifted designer. And I look forward to seeing what she and the Lord bring out as she continues to grow in this part of her life. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 to 16, Jesus says this to those who are listening, his disciples. He says, "You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they might see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Oh, there's that song that runs through my head from Godspell, "Let your light so shine." This is maybe what I pray more than anything for all of our kids. A few years ago, when Olivia was preparing to go to college, we had a few conversations about choosing a school. You see, Gracie had chosen a Christian university, and I wanted Liv to know what she was getting herself into. And so I said to her, "Listen, you need to know that in a Christian school, people around you are going to try to help build your faith. But if you go to a public university setting, your faith is going to be strongly challenged and maybe ridiculed. Maybe." After some thought, she came back to me and she said, "Dad, I think I'm ready to be challenged." And so before she ever got started in class, she joined a strong church at the University of Cincinnati, where she now, some 5 years later, serves as a mentor to younger women who, like she was in that day, are looking for a community to strengthen their faith. And this looks good on my princess. So just as Reese loves animals and their owners, and Zach builds with the work of his hands, and, well, Ella, she sends out this soulful music, and Josiah nurtures the next generation of young musicians. May it be then that Livy's skill for design and her ability to put it together to make beautiful works of art be used to fashion works that bring praise to the Father in heaven. May it be so, Livy Lee. And you, my friend, join us here next week as we finish up the Job Kids series, considering the divine creativity of God in our firstborn, Gracie, and our first son-in-law, Cole. We'll see you then. God bless. Visit our website, ancientpathministries.org, to learn more about what we do and how you can join us through prayer, mission trips, networking, and financial partnership. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Ancient Path Ministries. This is Pastor Kevin Jobe speaking to you for Ancient Path Ministries. Until next time, may God bless you abundantly. Go and be the church.